Throughout my life, there is no question about it. I've always looked up to my dad. We are incredibly close and have been as long as I can remember. My dad, Dan Austin, owns a multi-sport adventure vacation travel company called Austin Lehman Adventures. When I say multi-sport, I mean hiking, biking, rafting, horseback riding, whatever fits in a particular region. This company in its various forms has been in existence since I was just 6 years old. Anyway, my dad and I have been thrill seekers for a long time. We're always looking for the next big adventure. My dad and I head back to the Tetons every now and then. Ever since I can remember, my dad, pointing up at the Grand, has said, "Kasey, that's the one. We're going up there someday to the top of the world. Our goal is to make it up there." I've never known my dad to go back on a promise. But as we grow older, we sometimes lose sight of our goals that once seemed so important. However, out of the blue last spring, my dad said, "Kasey, how about we finally bag that Grand Teton?" I was speechless, and I didn't know if he was serious. Little did I know, though, that the next day he would call and set up our trip for late July of 2010. I couldn't believe it. We were actually going to pursue our dream. Now, looking at my dad, he isn't exactly the buff hunk he was 20 years ago. He's going to hate that I'm telling you this, but his days of scouting and running trips out in the field are becoming few and far between as he works out more logistics from his office chair. And let me tell you, office chairs don't exactly work out your midsection. However, when my dad decided we were climbing the Grand, he trained hard. He rode his bike to and from work, walked the treadmill, did weights, and stretched every day. My dad has enough determination and motivation for about 10 people when it comes to working towards a goal. Anyway, we both trained hard and excitedly looked forward to our adventure of a lifetime, climbing the Grand, father-daughter style. The time finally came to head down to Grand Teton National Park. I'll never forget the sound of silence as we gazed up at the Grand for the first time, knowing we were going to climb to the top. I know we were both secretly wondering what we'd gotten ourselves into, but neither of us was going to mention anything. We met our guide, Bill Anderson, the next morning, who walked us, and I guess climbed us, through the training session in Cascade Canyon, which was a blast. After 2 days of intensive training, we went to bed with sore bodies and the peace of mind that we were actually going to be able to climb this monster of a mountain. The day of the hike up to the base camp, we had beautiful weather. Mid-70s, not a cloud in the sky, and we slowly but surely snaked our way up the switchbacks, rock-hopped through the boulder fields, and gazed open-mouthed at the beauty of the green meadows filled with thousands of flowers. But nothing would prepare us for what we would see next. The magnificence of the Grand Teton, looming straight over our heads. We crept our way through the remaining fields of rock and snow, eventually popping out at the base camp on the lower saddle. My dad and I were thrilled to have made it this far. We now knew that we would meet our goal of making it to the top of the Grand. We laughed and joked the afternoon away while eyeing our longed-for peak, taking in the views of both Wyoming and Idaho while listening to Bill's mountain man stories. Bill also pointed out the route we would ascend at 2 o'clock the next morning, the Owen Spalding route. As we got ready to hit the sack, quite early in the evening I might mention, we nervously watched as dark black clouds rolled their way in, encompassing our mountain. I still remember every detail of that night. The jittery excitement, tossing and turning, checking my watch every hour to see if it was yet 2 o'clock. I nervously listened as thunder clapped straight over our heads and hail began to pound our tent. I waited and waited, yet 2 a.m. rolled by and no wake-up call. Then 3 o'clock passed by, then 4 o'clock, and finally at 5 a.m., Bill told us it was time to get up. Upon emerging from our tent, we stepped into 3 inches of fresh snow. Snow? Oh yes, it's quite common above 11,000 feet in July. As we watched the sun rise over Wyoming, we took in our surroundings as well as our situation. The entirety of the Grand Teton was covered in a slick, unclimbable sheet of ice. As my dad and I realized what this meant, that we wouldn't be reaching our dream goal of over 15 years, we were engulfed by a gloomy silence. We struggled to remain positive, with tears streaming down our cheeks. After all, we were standing on the lower saddle of the most amazing mountain in the world. But we just couldn't shake the feeling of defeat. As the sun rose in the sky, our hope for reaching our incredible destination dissipated into disappointment. We stared longingly at our icy, glittering peak, taunting us with its beautiful blue sky backdrop. There was no way we were reaching the top this time around. We could only hope for another chance to reach our sought-after peak. Winning this contest would help my dad and I achieve our father-daughter goal of reaching the top of the Grand Teton. We've both never wanted anything more, and we both know we have what it takes because we've been so close before. We just need that second chance. Reaching the top of that peak would help us close this chapter of adventure in our lives, only to open up a new one. And who knows what that would hold. Thanks for listening, and we both sincerely hope to see you at the top of the Grand.